Hey, and welcome to Caching in the Northwest. You know this is the official podcast of GeoWoodstock 18 right here in the great Pacific Northwest. Now, it's Thursday night at 9 p.m. Pacific. I'm Chris of the Northwest, and we're going to talk about geocaches and geocachers and hikers from here and all around the globe. So while you're spraying sunblock on your feet so you can wear sandals again, we'll be caching in the Northwest. And now tonight we are talking with author and hiker, maybe more of a hiker than an author, but an author and a hiker, Craig Romano. Craig, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on the program, Chris. Glad to be here.
Now, I counted you're an author of over 30 books, 30 hiking books. It's amazing.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
maybe more. Who knows?
Who knows?
And always, as always, live audience, share your thoughts with us and join us. But before we get started, it's time to bring in our mountain macaque. Some say his webbed feet prevent him from wearing flip-flops. And others say he makes everyone uncomfortable in the pool. All we know is he's called Land Monkey.
Everybody out of the pool. All right. Yeah, it's a shallow pool. We're talking about the gene pool, right?
Gene
right.
pool. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good stuff. Hey, it is good to be here. The astute listener and viewer will notice that we are one host short. So everybody send your well wishes and how much you miss them to Jim on Twitter. We always like to encourage you to do that when one of the hosts can't be here, because it just makes them feel a little better. It makes them feel loved and missed. And he is loved and missed. All right. Well, we have introduced our guest, at least an initial introduction. We are very excited to get into the topic tonight. But before we do, it is time for a quick reminder that we appreciate the support of our patrons who help to keep this podcast coming each and every week. Thanks to Land Sharks, one of our corporate Denali level sponsors. I am lucky I just had dinner with the Land Sharks.
Oh, aren't you special?
I am special. There is no question about how special I am. No, you would think it was Greek food tonight. Okay. So I'm very fully sated. But
so there's one less Greek sailor fell overboard,
yes,
and the Land Sharks got him.
And the Sharks got him. Yeah. Well, you know what? We are talking about hikes and backpacking in Washington State. And if you need to pick up some supplies, some safety supplies for your hike, if you need a thermal blanket, emergency blanket, if you need an emergency little hand chainsaw, whistles, and all kinds of safety supplies, flashlights, of course. Fire starters, etc. Why don't you check out landsharks.ca? They've got all that kind of stuff, as well as, of course, as geocaching supplies. So check it all out there. And I would be remiss if I did not mention our other corporate Denali level sponsor, who I did not, unfortunately, have dinner with tonight. I think we really need to arrange our dinners better. But that would be Gold Country Geotourism, who I am very much looking forward to catching up with. And as coincidence may or may not have it, they are our guest next week. So if you want to get caught up on Gold Country, tune in next week, folks. But in the meantime, you can find out all about it by checking out exploregoldcountry.com to learn more about the geotour, the region, the adventures, the passion, the excitement, the drama, the everything that is Gold Country. That is on Facebook, Explore Gold Country, or of course on their website at exploregoldcountry.com. And if you want to know more about supporting the show, well, my friends, you know exactly what to do. That is to click the Patreon link on the cachingnw.com, a website.
A little more dramatic next time, please. You did okay. I think we can amp that up a bit.
Yeah? Okay.
Oh, boy. Hey, folks, we are very excited to have Craig Romano, and we want you to help us ask him some great questions. So use the hashtag hike to add to tonight's show. And of course, you can always use the hashtag FATAS. That's for the after show if you want to bring up something for the after show. And don't forget about hashtag podcast baking and tell us what you're cooking tonight. Craig, I don't know why it is, but there seems to be a lot of people who like to bake during this podcast.
I've heard
So
that. Yeah.
yeah,
If you're going to ask me what I'm cooking,
yeah.
nothing right now, but
Oh,
I am sipping on some good red wine. So
there you
Nice.
go.
Is it
okay,
Washington State red wine?
of course.
There you go.
Okay.
Well done. Well
Nice.
done. And yeah, I mean, that is one of the fun things is to hear about what folks are baking during the podcast. And the hosts are always shaking and baking. So there you go. All right, we got a little bit of news, folks. It is from an article from WLTX. Is that a TV station, Chris?
TV or radio? I can't recall.
Wiltix? All right.
I'd like to buy a vowel.
Yeah.
WLTX out of South Carolina.
Okay. Thank you very much. I hadn't read that far. That it now explains to me what SC stands for.
Oh, there you go. Oh, I
saw
threw the
Richland and I was thinking Washington. And then I saw an SC. I'm like, is that like state or county? I don't know what SC stands for. Okay. South Carolina.
sorry,
Got
I
it.
put the US story on the Canadian. It's very confusing.
Well,
Would
it's
you
just
like
going to be
me to
more
read it
entertaining
instead?
for our listeners. That's all. All right. Well, as they're sharing, the weather's starting to warm up. Students are on summer vacation. Richland County in South Carolina is hoping that more people take advantage of their Drains Aren't Dumps geocaching series. I guess that's the it's not trash, it's a geocache. Is that the theme we're going off
Mm,
of here? I don't know.
no, I wouldn't go that far. Okay.
No, it's trash. Okay. So what we've got to share here is that the education program coordinator with the county's stormwater management division is a big fan of geocaching and wanted to find a creative way to tie together her hobby and their current theme for getting people to not dump crap in drains called Drains Aren't Dumps. So she said, we decided to put geocaches in the locations where the painted drains are. She said the series offers a way to get out, be active while teaching people about clean wastewater. At each geocache location, you'll find a note card with printed facts and figures from the department. You get the information, you learn a lesson, and you have fun doing it. So if you want to find out more, visit the Richland County, South Carolina website and download a Storm Drain Series passport. Well, there are codes that you can put those codes into a geocaching website. What? Oh, okay. All right. She means the GC codes. All right. I was trying to
Right.
figure that out.
There
Okay.
you go.
But there is a passport that you can download. You get the info from the caches and you send your proof of completion to the Stormwater Division for an award. What is the award, you ask?
It's a major award.
It is a mystery. They're not telling us what the award is. So if you are in South Carolina and you are listening to this podcast and you are a geocacher, well, get your butt out there and then call the show 253-693-TFTC and tell us what you earned because we want to know. Now we're curious.
That's right. This article piqued my interest because here in Tacoma, they've painted a salmon above all the storm drains.
Yes,
So
we have the
just
same up here.
Okay, so it just reminds you that if you dump something down the storm drains, it goes right out to our Puget Sound, right out to the water. So just don't do it.
So
And I
don't
thought this
be an idiot.
was a great way to emphasize that with our little hobby of a geocaching twist there.
It is. It's a good story, neat initiative, and good message. So there
Yeah.
you go.
Well, and thank you for learning about South Carolina. I thought you did quite a good job.
I was making it up as I went along, just like I always do on Thursday nights at 9 p.m.
That's right. Well, we've waited long enough. Craig, thank you for coming on the podcast. Now, you've been a popular guest on the TV show Evening, what used to be Evening Magazine. I
Right.
guess that shows my age, right? Because that's how I remember it.
I still call it Evening Magazine too. I think most people do. I think there was
Yeah.
some trademark issue that they had to change it.
I think so. And that's how I first heard of you, even though as I'm looking at your book titles, I realized I've seen your books before. But,
Well, good. I hope so.
but putting a name to the face, it's like, oh, that's Craig Romano. I've got to have him on the podcast. So we're excited to talk to you about backpacking. But before we do, let's catch up with you. Would you mind telling our listeners, if they haven't read all of your books, maybe a little bit about you and, a little inside information.
Yeah, well, basically, I'm not a native Northwesterner. I'm a native New Englander. I grew up on the other side of the country. Grew up in New Hampshire, small state, wonderful outdoors. Uh, been out here 3 times before I moved out here, and the 2 times I came out here were via bicycle. I was a long distance endurance cyclist before I became a big hiker. So I've been out here for 33 years now, and one of my goals pretty much is to hike every trail possible, whether it's in Washington, British Columbia, Oregon, California, New England, wherever it is. So, yeah, that's my story, very very abridged.
Nice. Nice. Now, you have written so many great books, some on urban trails right here in Washington, in our Washington cities, others in trails in various regions of the state. And as you said, the area, maybe even back to New England. I haven't looked at your New England ones because I have to get there myself. But you've even talked about hiking with dogs. And we may just have you come back on to talk an entire show about hiking with dogs.
Well, here's the tough thing. I'm actually a cat person.
Oh
So,
no!
and cats aren't the easiest to hike with, though. I can direct you to a few people who hike with cats. Yeah, I did a book. Oh, it was one of my first titles many years ago. Worked with another author on hiking with dogs, and yeah, it's I'm not specializing in that area right now, but all my books actually emphasize which trails are dog friendly. So I don't have a dog, but I hike with people who do. Get out there
Okay.
with various different dogs, and I can pretty much tell you which trails are good for them and which aren't. So
Nice. My son has a harness for his cat, and he,
yeah,
takes him out on a leash from time to time. I don't call it a walk. It's more of a where's the cat going to go next?
yeah,
But
they usually ride on your. Years ago in the 1980s, I was on the Appalachian Trail, and there was a through hiker who became very very famous. He did the entire trail with a cat, and the cat just sat on his pack. The whole time, had to feed with a little leash. I'd be worried about at night, predators and such.
Mhm.
But the people that I've encountered with cats, that's pretty much the story. The cat kind of hangs on there. Then on a harness, you kind of let the little guy snoop around. So
Nice. Now, with so many books that you have authored, is there one that you're most proud of? One that stands out in your memory as, wow, this
you
was
know, it's
is a great book.
it's funny when I saw that question, I had to really think about it, and I'm actually proud of all my works, and I know that's kind of a lame answer, but if there's something in particular, I mean, I could sit there, or maybe my first title, or maybe when I did the 100 classic hikes, which carried on the Manning Spring legacy. There were a couple of the original old time guidebook authors. But yeah, I put so much into all my books, and even when I'm redoing the different editions, I sit there and go, yeah, I'm proud of that one. It's so much better than the previous one. So yeah, I pretty much, if my name's on it, I mean, I really put everything into it, and I'm proud. I'm proud of my work. Yeah.
Very cool. Speaking of your work and uh, how wide a collection of books you've authored, how do you come up with ideas for new books? I mean, I'm going to assume there isn't a trail in Washington State that doesn't have your footprints on it at this point in time.
Believe it or not, there are a few. And that's the fun thing. As I'm redoing, matter of fact, I'm redoing my Columbia River Gorge book, and I was just on a trail last week that I'd never been on, and I actually even stumbled upon a geocache on that trail. But basically, just I fanned out from each region. I lived in the Skagit Valley, so the North Cascades wasn't obvious for me. But my wife grew up in Vancouver, Washington, so Columbia River Gorge, one of my favorite areas. But I also love Eastern Washington. I did a book on the Gulf Islands and the San Juan Islands. I mean, just kind of just branching out, covering the region, the Olympic Peninsula. I just Mount St. Helens, another one. I mean, it was one that I think one of the fun things I remember for so long. I was driving down the gorge a couple of years. I mean, many years back, and think, there's so many of these trails I need to hike. If I pitch a book about it, it'll force me to get here and do all the trails. So part of it has been that it's kind of what can I? But even with that being said, it has to be something I can market. I can't. There's so many places I would love to hike and write a book, but if it's not going to interest people, I mean, how many people are going to go up to Kalani National Park in the Yukon? I mean, I've been up there, but trying to sell a book to that area would be really difficult.
It's pretty remote. Craig, you mentioned pitching ideas for a book. So is there a particular publisher you work with?
Yeah, primarily I've worked with several, but my prime publisher has been Mountaineers Books, which is they're out of Seattle. They're the largest outdoor book publishing company. They've been wonderful to work with. So the majority of my titles have been with them. But I did one book with the University of Washington. I did another one with Rizzoli out of New York City. And that was actually, that was a book I was quite proud of. I worked with a couple other authors, a big coffee table book, very, very different than what I've worked on before.
Nice.
I was going to grab the question, Chris, from OBeep. It's nice to see Mark watching the show. Hey, Mark. He asks, Craig, when you're redoing or when you're writing your books or editing for existing books, do you look only for new trails or do you also revisit trails you've done before? This is a great question.
And the answer is both. So basically, I'm working on the Gorge book right now, and of course there was a big fire down there in 2017. So I'm rehiking everything because so much has changed. And doing that research, I've had to pull trails out of the book because they're not going to come back. But at the same token, I with my new additions, I like to expand the books too, add extra items. So I'm always putting in trails that haven't been in there before. So when you do get one of my second editions, in essence, you're getting a brand new book. I pretty much rewrite almost the entire volume, new photos, remapping things, lots of new trails, really keeping up with it. So yes, that's a great question. And again, I'm thorough in all my research. There's nothing that I write about that I don't walk. I know there's some authors that can't make that claim, and it shows, and you can tell. But yeah, I'm out there. That's the best part of my job is the field research.
Impressive.
Nice.
Impressive. Another question from GSM times 2. He wants to know, does Craig use a GPS when he hikes?
Yes. Yeah, I do. I do a lot of my own mapping. I mean, I'm using reliable maps, like Green Trails maps or some of the other ones out there, but I'm also running my own tracks because what you'll also find is that, again, things have changed from the old maps. I actually do work for Green Trails Maps. So full disclosure, I've been on their mapping crew. I've done GPS work with them. So yes, I also I'm a trail runner too. So I wear a Garmin Phoenix. I'm always tracking. Sometimes I'm tracking twice, to really make sure that I'm getting you're getting accurate elevation changes in my books. A lot of the old books will be interesting. They only tell you where you start and where you finish, but they don't mention all the ups and downs.
Oh,
so I'm going to give you the full deal on what that elevation gain is.
Nice.
wow. That's impressive.
Very handy.
Nice.
So Craig, our listeners, as you probably know from the back and forth we've had prior to the show, are mainly geocachers.
Right.
And I know that's not really the subject of your books. However, we all know geocachers will generally love a great hike, as there's a topic we all agree on. Now, how do you rate the hikes? I think you were just kind of touching on it a little bit there. Do you have a methodology that you use, some sort of standard tables or images or icons or something? Do you include length, time, elevation, etc.? I just dumped a whole lot of information on you. I'm going to hand it over to you and explain to us how you rate hikes.
No, it's a good question. Yeah, I rank. So I have 3 rankings in my books. One is the overall difficulty, and again, that could be difficult because I can't judge it on what I do. I mean, I'm one of these crazy guys that does 30-mile day trips and stuff, and so I try to base it on the average person, and what I've been told is that I'm pretty good at that. So the overall difficulty and taking into consideration will be length, elevation change, the terrain, because lots of times the short trail can be very, very difficult. If it's rocky, if it involves some scrambling. So taking all those into consideration, for the overall, if I rank something a 1-star to 5-star, that's purely subjective. That's what I feel about it. But again, I'm trying to look at it. You can't just you look at something like Mount Rainier and almost anything there you're going to call a 5-star. I'm not going to compare something over in the Palouse in Eastern Washington to Mount Rainier, but something in the Palouse could be a 5-star too, because it's just an incredible experience on this rolling. But matter of fact, I just wrote an article about this in Mountaineers magazine about how the Mount Rainiers steal the thunder, and I was in southern Alabama just last month, in the Mobile Delta, just an incredible place, a flat swampland that I would get 5 stars for what I was doing. But you can't compare the places. So I'm looking at, just what kind of experience you're going to have as far as is it a
Mhm.
wilderness experience, the trees, the wildlife, all those things go into consideration. And then the other thing I started ranking, this is really important because use has really gone up in the last few years, is a crowd rating and trying to, giving people the option. Okay, it's like this trail is a 5. It's going to be busy all the time, or this trail is a 1. There's a good chance you might be the only one on there. And this has been really handy, especially people who only look for trails on the web. They're only going to get the popular ones. I really, really search out a lot of what I like to call the trail less taken, and really put a lot of those in my book. And I really put an emphasis on a lot of those. But so many people still, they just want those popular trails where everybody's going. And I'm trying to divert some people into some of these other areas. And that's kind of one of my little missions in all my books. Hey, check this out too.
Nice. I like that. Now, in geocaching, during the weekday, we may only be able to grab a cache or two, but plan longer trips on the weekend. I'm sure hiking this great state is, pretty much the same, right? Maybe shorter walks on the weekdays and a beautiful longer hike on the weekends. Can your book help to sort out hikes like this?
Yeah, exactly. My backpacking book is primarily all long. It's not short backpacks. It's all 16 to 50 miles. So for a lot of people, weekend trips or maybe a week trip. But even in my day hiking books, they're all the different range from a couple miles to 12, 16 miles. And then I'll talk about campsites because a lot of those,
Hmm.
you can definitely turn those into overnighters. But I'm giving you all that data, how difficult the terrain is, if there's campsites, water, the length, and then people can decide, okay, is it just a day trip for me, or is it an overnighter? And again, I mentioned trail running too. It's another whole area. I became involved in the trail running community about 12 years ago, and I know that a lot of in my backpacking book, it appeals a lot to those longer trips too. It definitely has an appeal to the runners.
So, Craig, you've already sort of broached into the topic of backpacking, which is, the theme of the show here. And we've talked about just trailing in general or hiking in general on trails and such. And but you're here to talk about backpacking, and that definitely funnels down the niche of geocachers we're talking to. But I think people in general are still pretty interested. So let's jump into that. And first of all, so you have a recent book published specific to backpacking in the Northwest, and can you share with us the name of the book and where people can find it?
Yeah, it's really easy. It's called Backpacking Washington. It's the second edition. Just came out less than a year ago. There's 80 trips in it, primarily from 16 to 50 miles, the entire state of Washington. And you can pick it up anywhere books are sold. So all your independent bookstores, REI, Amazon covers it. So any place that carries books.
Nice. I would suggest go to your local bookstore, help them out.
Absolutely, yeah. We have a lot of good ones here um,
Mhm.
in the Northwest. Sorry about that.
It's very
No worries.
dramatic.
I'm trying to get the right lighting here, and I'm not getting it.
It's fine. You look great.
Okay, all
So
right.
for those listening to the audio version who just missed out on the excitement, Craig was having
No,
some lighting challenges for a
I'm
moment
having
there.
some technical difficulties here. The sun is setting here where I speak.
There you go.
I'm
Perfect.
I'm locked away in the basement. I have very little natural light down here, so
And you have very good lighting. My lighting here wasn't set up for this, so okay. Sorry
well,
about that.
we've been at this for 463 episodes. So,
I see
over time we've, developed a little bit of, technique here and there.
that.
Craig, on this podcast, I can't tell you the number of times we talk about safety. We talk about the 3 T's, we talk about the 10 essentials, as well as, basic safety and preparedness. That's something that I personally push, and I want everybody who listens to be safe, and because that means you're going to go out again and you're going to enjoy it, and it's going to be a lot more fun. Um, since we're talking about backpacking, what should people hitting the trails have in their backpack?
Yeah, and I mentioned there's depends on who you talk to. If you're going ultra light or going, there's people are going to be carrying wide array, but there's certain things that if you're going into a wilderness trail, you should always have, of course, that's the 10 essentials. And then talking about backpacking, there's lots of little extra things that are going to make your life a lot easier out there. But one of the things I started carrying, I was never much of a techie for so long. I kind of like, I've been doing it for years. I don't need it. But I carry a spot personal locator now, which I never ever use. And and I'm going out these crazy, ridiculous. I'm by myself lots of times, and of course, when I was younger, there were so many times where something could have happened. I never would have been found, and you don't think about it. But as you get older, you start thinking about it. I became a parent older in life, and that made me think about it more too. So that's definitely something I suggest that you have. Also, a good first aid kit, and know how to use it. That's the thing too.
Yeah.
I mean, things happen out there, and you should at least know some of the basics of taking care of yourself, or if you come upon a hiker who needs some help. So that's really important. I can't, also emphasize having a water purification device, and there's some that are really, really easy, convenient. I mean, I have just a squeeze bottle. It's really, really quick. You can deal with that. Um, Headlamp, if you're out there for a while, really lightweight headlamp. I've come out so many times in the dark, not planned, so it's always good to have that. Extra food. I always come out off the trail with food in my pack. You don't want to be in the opposite of running out of stuff halfway through. So water, food. You're having your layers too. In the Northwest, the weather it can change so rapidly, especially with anything that involves getting wet, whether it's snow or wind, rain. So you really want to have that protection, the extra layers, yeah. I mean, and the thing is, so many times I don't need this stuff, and that's great.
Right.
And the one or two times you need it, it can make the difference of whether you're going to come out alive. I mean, not to be overly dramatic, but that's the case there.
No, I completely agree. And Land Monkey,
Yeah.
I think he called us old in that.
Sorry?
Now, I don't. I think during that whole speech there, he called us old because as you
I
get
think he was
older,
talking about
safety
you
is
and
more
Brian.
Oh,
I think he
okay.
was talking about you and Brian.
Well,
Not me.
it hit me because yes, I'm getting older and safety is more important.
Safety is
Yeah, I mean,
always important.
You'll learn one time, Land Monkey.
Well,
You'll learn.
it's funny. I mean, I've never been. It's always calculated risk and things, but well, just an example. I mean, I remember in my late 20s just hiking in Garibaldi Provincial Park and free climbing up the Black Tusk with a couple of European crazies. Free climbing just up this thing,
Right.
and yeah, nobody knows I'm up there with these guys. I would never do that now. It's like. So there's so many cases where I thought just one slip, one problem, or I was all by myself in an area. No one's going to find you, and
Yep.
I think we're just lucky a lot when we're younger, but not everybody is. I mean, there's a lot of search and rescues are pulling out unresponsive bodies out there. So
Yeah, it's a good point.
Well,
And I can relate to your example because I, in my 20s, free climbed up the chimney of the Tusk
I
also.
love it.
Great memories, but yeah, I would agree with you. In my 50s, I probably won't do that again.
Exactly.
But
I was with this guy from France, and the Europeans are crazy. They have no fear. Just listen to those guys. All right, show me the way. So.
nice.
I'm just going to park any comments about Europeans for a moment.
Well, here we'll have a European comment on that.
There we go.
Mark from OBeep says, I have to be careful when walking with Mr. Dr. D. He's like a mountain goat, and I have to remind myself, I can't walk like that anymore.
Yeah, his son's a little bit younger than he is, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, I'm saying I should preface about the European hiking too. My wife and I we were guides in the Pyrenees in
wow.
France and Spain for 5 years. So I've had lots of exposure to European hiking and European hikers. So,
Very cool. Very cool. So Craig, talking about your book, the backpacking book again, you've shared a lot of really cool information that you've included in the book and your rating system, etc. If someone's, they're getting really excited to listen to the podcast, they're going on Amazon or they're going to the local bookstore and they're picking up a copy, what should they know before they crack the spine on that sucker to make the experience of reading it and using the information the best it can be.
Yeah, I mean, and here's how things have really changed. You know, when I was younger, and actually this hasn't changed even the way our technology. When I'm traveling to a place, half the fun for me is doing the research before I get there, and so many people today, they just get on some online chat group and just throw out questions and let everyone else answer it for them, which which again is silly because people say, well, that's a good trail for me to do. And again, you're asking somebody else's opinion, not based on anything that they know about you. You know about yourself. You know what your abilities are. You know what you like. And again, half the fun is getting the book and just flipping through the pages and just eliminating things like that. Oh, this sounds great. That sounds great. Let's do that. And then doing the research again too. Like it's going to tell you what time of year, if there's a tough river crossing, if there's snow, it's going to be there. To know all that stuff. Do I need? Even the best book's still can't keep you up to date on everything. So I'm going to have the websites and the phone numbers of land management. So you're going to check in. You know, was there a fire here recently? If the bridge is still in place. So I can't emphasize you got to know that stuff because so many people will just show up at a trailhead with just they saw a pretty picture on the internet, looks like a great hike ever, and get into trouble in so many ways without really knowing what they're doing, whether it's not having the proper gear, being properly prepared, not realizing that pretty picture was 10 miles in on a really difficult hike in grizzly bear country, and you see this kind of stuff all the time. So I can't, again, this is where my books definitely come into place. It's part of that planning process that I think so many people today want to eliminate. They just want the payoff so quickly. And
Mhm.
again,
Mhm.
for me, half the fun is doing the research, the anticipation. Getting myself just primed by reading over and over again. And I have books and maps of places I'll probably never get to, but again, it's just there's always that allure there that maybe that 50 hikes in Arkansas book I'll use someday. So,
Are
I think
there
that's
50 hikes in Arkansas?
there's you got
there's
the
got to
Ozark
be.
National, yeah. I'm sure there's a great geocaching group there too.
Craig, I
Of
think you
course.
made a great point, and we've had Stephen on and talking about it. We've had
Right.
Sandra from Adventure Smart a few times on and talking about it, and it's the SAR prevention, right? It's the
Mhm.
idea of um, doing the maximum amount of planning you can so that you can reach the end destination, which Sandra reminded us is not the summit, is not the Instagram moment. It's getting home is the end of
Right.
the hike.
Good point.
And I
Yeah.
really liked that message from Sandra. But
Yeah.
you also were talking about, the immediate payoff, the Instagram moments and everything. And I think it's a really good point that if you want that payoff, you have to put in the effort. And if you're going to be putting in the effort, you need to do the planning. So I think it's interesting. It's kind of like I'm looking from a project management perspective, but there's this critical path of activity that needs to be followed.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the other thing, yeah, you made a good point there too. And I just wrote an article. It's funny, I do this a regular column for Mountaineers Magazine, and as I've gotten older and more established in my career, I felt I've gotten more philosophical about things, and it was interesting. I had a big 0 year birthday last year, and I did some crazy things on my 60th. One of the things I did the Timberline Trail on Mount Hood. 41 miles, 10,000 in 15 hours. Went out and so this is stuff that's applicable to me, stuff that my challenge. But I had people actually ask me, they get there, what should I do for my 50th? It's like, why are you asking me? It
Right.
should be something that has meaning to you. And so many times the Instagrammers, they're just taking pictures for the life. Are you really doing it for you? Are you really going to this place because you want to be there, or is it just so you can be an internet sensation? And I think people really have to ask themselves a lot of, and then again, I'll meet people that you can tell they're in these incredible places, and they're just there for the picture and out. They have no appreciation. Don't know what they're looking at. Um, the significance of the area, the cultural significance, the natural history, all that stuff. And again, it's their choice. That's how they want to do it. But I think you get so much more out of being in the outdoors, by really getting that full experience and doing it for what's meaningful to you. Don't be exteriorly motivated. Be interior motivated. And yeah, I think that's one of the big changes I've seen over the years. from when I first started getting outdoors in the 1980s to now. I mean, back then it was more people. I'm getting it. I want to get away from everything. I want to go back to nature. And now it's like I want everybody to see what I'm doing. Look at me. Very, very different mindset. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And I can say that I I have been like that. I can get very focused on going to find a geocache and forget the beauty around me, And now, no, let's stop. I don't need to get 100. If I get 2 and have a great view and a wonderful hike with friends, that's far more important than numbers.
Right.
So, yeah, this is something that I think everybody learns over time, or I hope they will learn over time. And yeah, it's not about the Instagram moment. It's
Right.
great you have that. And people look at it and go, "Oh, if he can do it, I can do it. Let's go." And
Right. And it should, that's a good point too, Chris. Geocache. I know there's a lot of hikers with trail running. People say, how can you possibly enjoy, what you're looking at, covering 30 miles in a day or something like that? And again, yeah, I'm not, what I'm doing. Lots of times when I'm doing a trail run, I might be doing it more for the challenge. But even at that point, I'm on those mountain ridges and I'm walking those points. Even I'll still take that 1 hour lunch break and sit in the most beautiful places. It's not about competing with other people too. Like, can I do this faster? It's all about me.
yeah,
It's for me. It's like I want to see what I can cover and just get an incredible experience here. And I also know too. I mean, at the point I don't. I mean, as I'm in my 60s now. How many more of these years are there? So it's kind of the point now that I really want to push myself to see what I do because I know there's coming a point a lot closer than I want it to be where it's going to force me to slow down, and then I'll be looking at the trails from a very different perspective again.
mhm,
Yeah. By
mhm,
the way, Chris, he's calling you old again.
yeah.
Hey, Craig, we had a great question come in from Mark, and he asked, do any of your hikes have a personal connection? I think you were kind of alluding towards that direction. Is there a hike in particular, or maybe a few that you'd say, yeah, this actually, and you talked about a milestone birthday one just a moment ago. Is there any other?
Yeah, there's a lot. Here's the tortured writer syndrome. I've dealt with a lot of depression and anxiety over the years, and had my challenges, like most people, I guess. So yeah, there's a lot of nature's always been uh, a healer for me, and there are definitely places that have a very, very strong personal connections to me. Places that I had cathartic moments and such. So yeah, there's a lot of those places. Some of those places I will return to. Others you're not going to It was so special at the time. The issue that it's probably best I don't go back. I'm not going to have the same experience, or maybe I have gone back and it's for that reflective moment. But one of the places that's close to where I live now, which is really interesting because the first time I was on this peak, I lived 2,500 miles away. Is Sourdough Mountain in the North Cascade National Park. That's always been a special peak, special place to me. I've, I first hiked that place when I was in my early 20s, and I try to get up there frequently, and it's just an incredible place for me. So yeah, I think everyone definitely find your places out there, and it could be any. It could just be the local park. It could be some place that's special to you. And yeah, and
That's
Now,
awesome.
absolutely. Yeah.
Craig, you mentioned that time of year, weather affects the trails that you're going to hike. Do you hike the trails during multiple seasons to get different information of, hey, you want to go before snow hits at this time, or
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I couldn't. I mean, I've written. I should count up sometimes how many thousands of trails I've written about. So it's just there's not enough time for me to actually go out and try to hike every one and see. But no, lots of times when I'm doing, I mean, I do my research, and then certainly certain areas are gonna have certain patterns. So the snowpack's gonna follow a certain pattern. But lots of time when I'm redoing a lot of my hikes too, if I did a particular hike maybe in early summer, maybe I'll try to do that same one later in the fall next time. So I can tell you it's great for flowers and for larches or for other foliage. So yeah, I do try to get to areas at different times because again, it's like going on a totally different hike. And that's another good point. Is that yeah, if you think you've been on a certain trail so many times, just even doing it at a different time of year, a different time of the day, so many different weather, you're gonna have a totally different experience. So
nice, nice. Now, I think you've already spilled the beans on this one, but is there a favorite hike that you have? I know it may be like picking your favorite child, and you may think it, you just never say it out loud,
It's a
right?
good thing I only have one child, so it makes it it makes it easier.
So
Um,
is there a favorite hike? Is it the sourdough?
well, it's funny, Chris, because all my associates know that's the number one question I absolutely hate when I'm being interviewed.
And you gotta ask it anyway, right?
Yeah, and I'm asking because I always say it's the same thing like music. You can't ask me what my favorite song is. Everything is
Right.
so conditional. It's the type of mood I'm in. And it's the same thing with hiking. And so I like to say my favorite trail is the one I'm on, but I would lie to you if I say that because there's trails that I never will do again because they're just not a great experience. But in general, I mean, I really love being outdoors. I just love being in the natural world. So whether it's on Mount Rainier or in the Mobile Delta, if it's an amazing experience, I'm going to love it. Um, if I had to narrow it down, I did write a 100 classic hikes book for Washington, and so that captures a lot of what I would call my favorites. But if I was to, move out of the area at the end of the summer and had to decide what do I want to redo, boy, that's gonna be tough. There's places like the High Divide in the Olympic Peninsula, Image Lake in the Glacier Peak Wilderness, just about anything in Rainier, St. Helens, Garibaldi Park. I mean, there's Panorama Ridge. There's so many places. It'd be tough. There's just so many great places to get out there, and that's funny too because again, people they love the top 10 and everything, but put together your own top 10, and
Yes.
again, it's all based on your don't try to compare everything to a Mount Rainier or something because
Right.
I can bring you to Florida. Well, I was just in Florida uh, 2 months ago too, hiking actually. And there's no mountains down there, and
I
I'm
was gonna
just
say
in these
not much elevation change in
there's
Florida.
not much elevation. Just incredible forests that you're not going to see anywhere. These longleaf pines and palmettos, and I mean the diversity of wildlife and everything, just incredible. So again, just don't try to look for all these superlatives in the top this and the top that. And what speaks to you, and go out there, enjoy, and get the best out of it. There's so many great things in the natural world, no matter where you are.
Nice. Well, we know that we want to keep to our time boundaries for tonight, Craig, and really appreciate you being on. We're not quite ready to wrap up, but you did mention earlier, and I can't remember if it was at the beginning of the podcast or if it was before we started, but some of the some of the books you're working on. Are you able to share with us anything that's upcoming?
Yeah, absolutely. So the book that I just finished is my second edition of Day Hiking Central Cascades. So that's pretty much the Highway 2 corridor, Stevens Pass, Lake Wenatchee, Lake Chelan, really good stuff around Leavenworth. That book will come out hopefully before Christmas. And then the one I'm updating right now is the Columbia River Gorge. And then after that, I start two brand new books, two titles. One is the statewide rail trail book, and that's going to be a lot of fun because it's going to be one of the first books that, well, I guess it'll be the first book I work on that won't be specifically hiking or running related because I'm going to talk about cycling too, and I'm going to be doing a lot of the research on
Yeah.
bicycle as well because that's going back to my roots. I was originally a cyclist, and then my other book is up in Tim Hortons country. Finally, I get to do my Urban Trails Vancouver, BC book, which will pretty much be covering everything from Howe Sound out to Chilliwack, but not into the mountains. Just a lot of the lowlands, so stuff you can do year round. Again, I live actually only 40 miles from Langley, so I get up there a lot, and great places to run, great places to for year-round hiking. So I'm really looking forward to that one. It was a project I was supposed to start on 2 years ago, but we all know what happened.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Very cool. Well,
Ham wants to know, ooh, Iron Horse Tunnel?
I guess that would be a rail trail, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's it, and that's also the Iron Horse Tunnel is in a couple of my other books too. But yes, that's the Palouse to Cascades Trail, which is matter of fact, I'm going to be out next week checking out the Beverly Bridge. They just opened that last month over the Columbia River, which now connects that trail all the way across the state. So I can't wait to do that whole thing.
Nice.
Very
Nice.
cool.
That's an important tunnel there to geocachers. There's a iconic geocache just on the other side of that tunnel. So we
Nice.
know it well. Oh, now, Craig, one more time, remind us where we can find your books.
Yeah, absolutely. All your independent bookstores throughout Washington, Oregon. I hope in BC too. But you can certainly get on Amazon and then at REI, Barnes and Noble, all those places. So yeah, it should have any problem finding them.
Related
Right.
to that, Craig, do you have any book signings or public appearances that our listeners might want to know about if they want to come and meet you or get a copy of your book signed?
Yeah, definitely. With the COVID restrictions, had done so little or none at all, and generally I actually do quite a few presentations. I enjoy going out there, sharing the trails, and doing PowerPoint presentations on. So I've got a big one coming up next week for the Inter Mountain Alpine Club in the Tri Cities. So that's in Richland at the Reach Museum. That's going to be on Backpacking Washington. And then in the winter in Kirkland, I've got one on urban trails, east side. So that's all that great stuff, east side of Seattle. And also I'll be talking about the hiking North Cascades for the Olympia Mountaineers coming up. And I'll be adding all kinds of events. I just finished a whole bunch this spring. So hopefully I'll be putting a lot more on the calendar and we'll get back into somewhat of a normal routine for me.
And if they wanted to find that calendar, where could they go?
They can find it at craigromano.com. Yep.
There you go. It's up on the screen. craigromano.com.
Very cool.
Well, Craig, thank you so much. This has been a great talk. We were a little time limited. I think we've nailed it right there for you, so that I certainly appreciate it. We'd love to have you come back with any book that you're that's coming out and you want to talk about, or if you just want to, come back and chat, we're happy to have you.
Great. Thanks, Chris. It's been a lot of fun, and yeah, I'd love to come back. So yeah, thank you. Next year, do you have any questions? I don't have to head out just yet. So if there's anybody has any questions,
we've got a couple. Let's see. We've got Carlos wants to know. What GPS device do you use? Do you use a mobile phone, or do you actually have a physical GPS?
I have a physical. I use I don't know which model it is, but it's a Garmin handheld when I'm doing a lot of my mapping, which is actually perfect for geocaches. All kinds of gadgets on there so I use that, and then I also I use a Garmin Phoenix watch. So I use my phone pretty much. It's just for taking pictures, and I actually still carry a camera with me too. So, but I'm not using Gaia or any of the
or
apps.
any of the mapping programs. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Washington Trails Association has an app that's quite good. And OpenStreetMaps tends to do a good job of mapping the trails. I'm curious, you take all these tracks. Do you upload them to any mapping site software?
No, it's pretty much it's for my use for I'll sit there for map scrap, put my my tracks on rough maps, and then I'll have a professional designer put the maps together for the books, or if I'm working for Green Trails, we'll dump it all to the photographer and I'll work with it. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Now you mentioned that you use your phone for photography, but you also carry a camera with you. I am personally curious, Craig, what camera do you use?
Well, and it's funny. I do have a big SLR that I use rarely because it's so heavy. And when I was working on my classic hikes book, which was very, very visual, it's more of a coffee table book, pictures, I had to really go for that. Other than that, I'm using a very, very small but good point and shoot that I wear right here, and just it can take some decent shots. I just got a Galaxy 22 now, which takes some incredible shots. So I'm doing more with the phone now than with the camera. But again, for weight, because I am usually doing really long days. I'm traveling light and fast, and don't want to have all that equipment, big tripods and everything. But occasionally I will bring the old Nikon in and set it up, because you're going to get just amazing shots. But I don't have the time to do that a lot. So.
How very true. It does take time. It does take. Now, do you do anything with video?
Very little. It's one of those things. Again, I really, I know my publisher. I probably should be doing more video just for promotional work and things like that. I don't have the time to learn editing. It's just like everything else. I would enjoy it. There's only so much time, and I'm so pressed just writing and doing all the other stuff. And I really like just trying to capture something in an image, in a still. But I am now, especially with the better phone now, I'm experimenting a little bit more with short clips, and I'll probably do a little bit more than I have in the past.
Very
Nice.
cool.
Let's see. What other questions do we have?
I think there was another one. If I go over here, Carlos was asking, and I think we kind of covered this off, but I guess people are curious about your experience and knowledge about geocaching because that's really our audience. And Carlos is wondering if your books are just hiking and trail centric, or do you ever mention other activities on the trails, let's say such as geocaching?
No, no. I know you guys are out there. I stumble upon your geocaches.
Oh, we're out there, all right, buddy.
You are, or between you guys and the Pokemon collectors, I'll find like what are you.
Hey,
I remember sometimes.
Whoa, let's slow down on that.
I don't lump us together.
But the funny story, before I even knew about the whole Pokemon thing, I remember showing up at this urban trail, and I see these three guys, and they're kind of like, oh, hanging out. Oh, is this a good scene? And so, I talk to people, kind of get the vibe, and all of a sudden I find out, oh, they're totally cool. They're looking for Pokemon. They're not going to break into my car. Everything's fine. But no, I don't. I would probably like geocaching. It's like it's the same thing. I don't fish. I like to move, and that's again. I've been an endurance junkie my whole life. I do cross country bike trips and do the ultra running. I just can't stay still, and that's a lot of it. I just want to keep moving.
Over 25 bucks, and clearly you can't keep still. That's awesome. I think we've run through all the questions that we had here for Craig. Again, Craig, just a sincere thanks for joining us tonight. You've been a great guest. It's been really informative, and like Chris said, I would just echo that. If you want to come back on to talk about any of your other projects or anything else of interest, we're a very diverse outdoor community. We'd love to hear from you again.
Love to be back. Thanks for having me on the program.
Thank you very much. And folks, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Caching in the Northwest.
Absolutely. And I want to take another moment to thank Land Sharks, our corporate Denali sponsor, and our other corporate Denali sponsor, which is Gold Country Geotourism. And Land Sharks, well, they are the outdoor adventure and geocaching store. Check them out online. They are shipping orders daily. And for Gold Country, for absolutely amazing geocaching adventures, check out exploregoldcountry.com. We also want to thank all of our faithful Denali level supporters. That is Land Sharks, also Gold Country Geo Tour, Team Squirrel, Groovy Owl, and Cachly, the geocaching app. If you want to know more about supporting this show, click that Patreon link on the CachingNW.com, a website.
Just like CRS 98 did.
And Kev MacD.
Flagman.
Dora Moore.
On a boat.
Camp Clan.
Boomer 365.
Kennel Barb.
Our favorite kitchen appliance, the LG 9000.
Hey, you talks to rocks.
Like what all the flowers are doing. Sprouter.
Our good friends at Logwork.
M-Nerve.
3 Hams and a Rose.
MZ3 Cats.
Skyhawker.
The GeoNav Pro.
Kid Vegas 19.
Wino Seattle.
Green Words.
Just finding our way.
Ooh, and I see the 3 exclamation marks and the word new in uppercase letters right beside J-Car. Welcome to the family, J-Car.
Peach of Washington.
Donners. The Geo Travelers.
Ari 54321.
Subway Mark.
Alarobrick.
Drexer.
Seebeck Tribe.
If you're a spilly drinker, you will have a wet coaster.
Team Noltex.
GSM times 2.
Wonderful.
So that was really rude. I just realized we have British people watching. I'm going to do it this way instead. Whoops.
Little things. It's just little things.
I have diplomatic immunity, so I'm good.
Terrible lunch. Great person. Gas station tuna.
And Keats 94.
Tick magnet.
Sorry, I'm still laughing. UDAC.
There he comes. It didn't take long. Dear God, says Mark. We're at Korsgat.
Genies.
Broncos fan for life.
Limax.
Ackerdock.
Fairwood West.
B. Pendragon.
Antaeus.
And of course, Segehove.
Of course.
Oh, hey, Craig. Craig just fell asleep.
That's it. He's
no, I just brought my assistant here.
There you go.
He wanted to see what was going on here.
That's your in-house editor, right?
That's my office assistant. Yep.
Craig, if some of our listeners wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do it?
Email, definitely. And I also, Craig at craigromano.com. And also, I encourage anyone to follow me on my Facebook page, which is Craig Romano Guidebook Author. And I'm very, very active and responsive on that as well.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Thank you so much. And folks, thanks for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Your support helps keep the quality shows coming. If you like the show, click the Patreon link on the cachingnw.com website. If you didn't like the show, let us know what you want us to talk about. In either case, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and more. Subscribe and give us a review. You can also call into 253-693-TFTC and leave us a comment, ask us a question, or share your favorite hike with us any time of the day or night. And of course, you can email us at feedback@cachingnw.com. Join us every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Pacific for a live show and often a livelier chat. This show is produced by Chris Umfenauer, Jim Paul Woods, and Jay Kennedy. It's licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license, copyright 2022 by Chris Umfenauer. And folks, I ask you to stay tuned for
the after show.
It's also licensed under a Creative Cat.
A Creative Cat Attribution.
Oh my gosh.
Now, Craig, the after show, I don't think we have much for it tonight. Was there maybe one?
There was one from Mini Meg. I've got a couple of things I wanted to share. Some cool
this is just when we have an opportunity to chat with our live audience. Anything they want to talk about. If you have to go, that's completely fine. We understand. But
hang around just for a few more minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Go ahead, Land Monkey. What did you have to say?
Well, let's share what Mini Meg has here first. They're making a reference back to an old episode of the podcast. They were wondering why there was on episode 109 some sort of history related to GCD. They didn't really understand. They didn't see why anything bad happened, but like, why is that now like a taboo subject of some sort? And so Brian explained a little bit. Yeah, he said that may have been the episode where he kept typing GCD in the chat, much to the chagrin of Chris. And Chris said, if anybody types that one more time, I'm going to end the show. And he did. He was true to his word. The show abruptly ended.
So
his dad pulled the car over.
109. How long ago was that? Holy cow!
I could do the math, but I'm not really good at math. So.
Yeah, it's 300
like over 300 episodes ago,
350 shows ago. So we did a hike up from it was the Iron Head or Iron Horse Trail, Mount Margaret. Is that where we started?
Yeah.
And so it was a great hike. We found the ape cache, which was the goal of the tunnel. And then before that, we did the hike up to GCD, which is the oldest geocache in the state of Washington. Well, I wanted to break that up into 2 shows. So I wasn't going to talk about GCD until I talked about the ape cache. So and Bryling wasn't going to leave well enough alone.
Such a
So he
trouble.
just kept prodding, "Hey, what about GCD? What about GCD?" I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the ape cache. We're talking about GCD next week. And I said, if you ask again, it's just the dad in me came out. If you ask again, I'm stopping this car.
Yeah. Have a FATAS that might be of interest to Craig here. Cliff shares that CRS98 shares that after listening to this, he thinks his Father's Day hike will be a hike to Oyster Dome up by Bellingham there.
I could see it from my office. It's in my backyard.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great hike. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, there's a much quieter approach from the east. So the busy side's the west side. You can do it from the east. You start a little higher. The trail's nicer. It's a little bit longer, much better shape. A lot quieter too. I actually trail run on that backside to Blanchard Mountain and all that area.
Nice. Yeah, I would imagine the other side would be very popular, especially on a nice day.
Yeah,
Well,
it can, yeah.
I was going to say, well, Cliff, now you got the inside scoop of how to get up there.
And
Nice.
I'll tell you one thing, it is loaded with geocaches up there.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure it is. Yeah.
That whole park is.
Yeah.
Yeah, what else have we got here?
Well,
the chat is having an extensive discussion about the hand gesture I made. Inadvertently. I want to say it was inadvertent, and I realized after I did it what I had done.
And when you said that, I'm like, why? Oh, wait, yes.
That thing. Yeah.
Was it the movie Churchill where they explained it? Or
I think so. Mark is explaining it in the chat for everybody, being the resident Brit. So
it's just one of those things that I never realized before, and I'm sure I did it, and I apologize for being offensive. It's just ignorance.
Mark is very offended, he says. Good. Well, mission accomplished.
Well, good. That'll teach him.
He won't be back soon.
Oh, excuse me. Now I'm all choked up.
Oh.
IHAM wants to know if there's any news regarding the theft at Mingo, and I'm oblivious to this.
Oh, you didn't know?
No.
So you know that
I've been incredibly busy this week.
Yeah, fair. Well, this is a few weeks ago, I think, at least 2 weeks ago. So as I understand it, I can't even remember who it was, but there was a group of folks who got together.
Mingo Madness?
Money, yeah, and in association with the Mingo Madness event, but a group of people, really a smaller group, focused on putting together effectively like an interpretive sign, like those highway history marker signs, something along that ilk.
Right.
Very
kind of like the original stash plaque.
A plaque. There is a plaque.
Yeah.
There was a plaque, and
I do know that.
An interpretive sign to explain why there's a plaque. Very from the pictures I've seen, a really, really nicely done. Apparently, somebody took both the sign and the plaque.
What?
Which is it's out along a highway in Kansas. I'm like, why would you take that? But who knows what the motivation was. Very sad.
Searching the internet right now. Here.
All right. So while you're doing that, Just Carlo Geocaching shared a FATAS that he received his copy of The Greatest Treasure in the mail yesterday. That's awesome. Congratulations. Huge congratulations to Joshua and Rich, Komakino, and the geocaching vlogger. There you go. That's the Mingo. So like I said, like a significant installation there that somebody took. So I don't know what they're going to do about that, but that's sad.
Craig, as it says, it's the oldest active geocache in the U.S. from May 1st, 2000. So a month before that, they flipped the switch, as we call it, and turned off selective availability so that people could use GPS to a much more accurate degree.
There you go. Scott says the motivation might have been that they thought it was bronze and stole it for the value, but it is not bronze. So once they figured that out, it probably ended up in a bin somewhere. Yeah, and Scott says oldest in the world, not just the US. Good point. Oldest
Good
active cache in the world.
Sorry, I am so US centric.
But going back to what I was saying, congrats to Komakino and the geocaching vlogger for releasing the first, speaking of firsts, and oldest, but at least the first geocaching comic book has been released and going out to the folks who supported the Kickstarter for it. So that is very exciting.
And I
so
want to know, has the keys to Komakino shackles been mailed so he can, finally get away from his desk?
I guess you'll have to ask Joshua.
Okay.
Although Komikino is, well, he's in the chat, but that doesn't necessarily mean he is unchained from his desk. So I guess we'll find out. Very funny.
Well, folks, thank you so much.
Oh, hey, Chris, before you go,
Yeah.
before you go, I got a little cool stuff to share here. It's GeoWoodstock related. So yeah, I want to let people know most of the people on the show have probably seen these before, the GeoWoodstock business cards, but there's new ones that are getting put out in caches, and you want to find them because on the back is an entry form. Now, if you can get one of these cards and you're coming to GeoWoodstock, you're going to want to drop one of these cards into the draw at GeoWoodstock to be entered in to win an exclusive set of coins, geocoins. So,
yeah, well, hold them up and show them to us.
yeah, I don't have the coins here, but they're at the Shark store. But we'll be promoting it a whole bunch more on the social medias very shortly. I just got these into my hands today, and so watch where I go caching.
Ooh.
Watch for events where I am. I'm not going to be giving them out to everybody I see. I'm only going to have a limited supply on me at any point in time. So, definitely.
So a little light internet stalking of Land Monkey is not a bad thing right now.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, anybody who knows me also knows that it may be slightly unpredictable to figure out exactly where I'm going to be at any point in time. But stalk the monkey, sure.
Hashtag stalk the monkey.
But anyhow, definitely something to be watching for. I would encourage people, if you're planning to be there,
just in case you want to know, Wet Coaster is going to be finding
some Fraser Valley Cache Bash caches this weekend.
Yep.
Good.
So,
excellent.
If you wanted to help him out, you could put some cards in there ahead of time. He's just saying.
There you go. Just a couple more quick things from me, folks. If you hadn't known, I've been putting out What's Up Wednesday videos lately. I'm going to continue doing that. There may be little breaks here and there. I might not be able to hit every single Wednesday, depending on what we're up to, but trying to be consistent with that and having a lot of fun getting some great content out there. And tomorrow, this Friday, my episode that gives you great tips for going out and planning your trip to Seattle goes live 7 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow morning. So if you want my advice and my tips on how to enjoy your visit to Seattle, check out that episode. And I'll also mention that Komakino put out an episode not terribly long ago featuring the same Seattle Center area and his geocaching adventures there. So check that out too.
Nice. Mark says, tomorrow. Today, you mean?
Yeah.
Whenever you call it Friday.
Exactly. Perfect. All right.
Well, folks,
that's
thanks.
everything I had. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this evening. And until next week, get out, do some hiking and some caching in the Northwest.